Welcome back to another episode of the Divewise podcast. You'll notice I'm not in the studio, I'm on travel, but I'm still doing my best effort to shoot these and hopefully have a nice background. And today I want to talk about what I got wrong early in my diving journey. And I thought this would be a good topic to share because we're all somewhere in our diving journey and we've all made mistakes. I've certainly made a lot of mistakes and I could have like a 2-hour video on this topic potential. But today I'm going to pick just one and maybe pick more in the future. And I thought for this one it'd be good to talk about opinions. There's lots of them. I'm sure you've had a lot of people share your opinions. And one of the things that I strive for, especially if all I've learned, is to share an opinion. I do have opinions. Everyone's going to have opinions. You've heard some of mine. But with that said, I always try to understand the deeper meaning behind the opinion, the why, and that's always important. And to give an example of where I went wrong in my journey with the why is basically with gas consumption. So early on, my gas consumption was horrible. I always thought originally was justifying it as kind of being, maybe it's just who I am. Maybe I'm just horrible at gas consumption. I'm kind of a bigger dude, not extremely so, but I do weightlift and that makes me pretty heavy, and I thought maybe that caused me to need more oxygen. But ultimately, I know fast forward many years, that isn't the case. My gas consumption is excellent. But originally, it took me a lot of practice to get there, and a lot of it was confidence building, calmness, and almost kind of a zen-like state in the water. Moving as little as possible. Now, there's certainly a lot of tips and tricks that people would give me, and I would try them, and they just didn't work until I really just started becoming a lot calmer, moving less, stronger control of my own buoyancy, and control of where I am in the water. But things kind of really hit a wall when one particular scuba diver gentleman basically told me my finning technique sucked and my gas consumption is horrible because of it. And, in reflection, my kicking technique did suck. So he was right. But what really happened when he told me that is basically my confidence took a nosedive. And I was actually kind of thinking, I'm not entirely sure about this scuba diving thing. I almost kind of decided to quit. But ultimately, in the long run, my wife and I decided almost like as a last hurrah that we're going to go on one dive trip to Palau. We went to Palau and we started diving there, and there was one particular instructor that kind of saw that we're decent divers. He can help us be better. And he offered to teach us that personal kind of mentorship, but also personal training through an advanced PADI course. And so we went ahead and signed up. And so with that, he spent one-on-one time with us, and we went through the entire advanced course curriculum. But in particular, he kind of stayed our kind of private dive guide for a whole trip beyond the class. So it was really quite an experience. He was very knowledgeable, and he flipped our general perception and experience of diving upside down. He helped really smooth out our buoyancy control. We started to understand what trim was, how to kick better, and no more bicycle kicks, understanding how not to kick. Through all those skills that we learned, this training, we then, of course, needed a lot of practice. So the real confidence kind of was built over years of practice of diving. But for the first time, we realized how much we were doing wrong. Before that, we weren't really sure. The one gentleman that told us that we basically suck, he didn't say it in a way that stuck. And one of my points here is that, just because someone shares their opinion doesn't necessarily mean it's right always, but also how they share it matters too. And so as you become better divers, you improve. Now, don't be the diver gentleman that I'm talking about that almost kind of turned me away from scuba diving. You want to be like the diver mentor that helps other divers in a way that isn't domineering, helps them realize that there is better ways and we can all learn together. In scuba diving, it's kind of an interesting field because instruction can be taking, obviously we're not all instructors, but you can still be a good diver that provides a strong example of what a good diver can be in offering advice to help other divers out. Because these aren't all necessarily basic 101 of scuba diving. It takes a long time to get your buoyancy right. This is always something I reflect on, and it's also something I'm still trying to improve today. When I'm doing a skill, I'll realize, oh, I didn't do it as good as I could. I really want to lock in my buoyancy that I can do all skills quickly and swiftly and efficiently within 1 foot of depth control and in good trim. And I don't always do that. So there's always room for improvement. And wherever you are, there is going to be something to practice and continuously improve at. And it's not about being the best diver. It's about being a good, safe, and inquisitive diver that's always trying to improve. So let's all keep this in mind. Wherever we are in our dive journey, there's always room for improvement. There's always something we can be better at. Take those egos, throw them out the window. One of the great things about diving is there's such a epic scale of skill to always improve on, while there's always so much to see underwater. And as much as I've traveled, I feel I've only seen a small fraction of what there is to see. And I only want to encourage people to go out there and see it as safely and effectively as possible. So go out there, make every dive your adventure, and remember, the more you know, the more you'll love and protect the ocean. Until next time.